Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of SpartBoi.
Hey guys, this is the legendary SpartBoi here, and today we are going to be discussing the last, and I think one of the most important parts of this documentary about SandBox, and it is going to be about their management. Yep, we're going to be talking about management today. And let's just say by the end of this, you're going to understand why a lot of people, and justly so, don't really like management that much, because management can be a bit bonkers. And I'm going to try and use as PG-13 language here. Not saying I swear, because I don't really swear, I just slang when I'm mad. But let's just say it gets really tempting to use cuss words when management gets this bad. Because the place I worked at and looking at all the reviews that I've looked into, which is quite a bit, and all the worldwide 3.3 reviews on not Sandbox. Sandbox, I don't think they want to put 3.3, That would be a little bit too much of a stretch for them. But no. On Glassdoor, worldwide 3.3. And this is going to be, from a ex-employee's standpoint here who worked as a um, guest experience guide slash host, which by the way, apparently I talked to a source at my previous job. And yeah, apparently, they're trying to lower the basically hiring new people is a little weird because management apparently thinks that lowering the pay down like as a minimum 13.50 to 14.50 doesn't make sense. Like I said, like Sunglasses Hut is right next door. They make about 14.25. They 25 cents less for 99% less work, to be honest, compared to what we do. Um, doesn't bode well. Really doesn't think. Really don't think management understands how stupid that can look. Because why would I why would someone in their right mind apply at Sandbox? With all the issues that I said in the last video, while then they can work at a place that you get paid 25 cents less, but you have to deal with less uh just stupidity and mismanagement, miscorporate management. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna dive into another section now, and we're gonna be jumping back and forth just because it's kind of like a huge web of managerial issues that connect to corporate issues that connect back to management issues. So, and specifically, we're gonna be talking about the manager, which I'm just gonna be referring to as this guy because if I don't call it this guy, unfortunately, his last name is a little bit iffy to say because he can come off as being really disrespectful. But yeah, we're just gonna call him this guy. Um, so yeah, so this guy, I worked for him for about 5 months before I was forced to resign, and we're gonna go ahead and kind of work backwards to forwards and then in between. So, first off, my last day I worked at this company, at this my workplace was December 1st was my last shift. After that, I didn't get any shifts. Didn't get any shifts, which was normal because it was weekdays, like a week. But I didn't get any shifts for another 2 weeks, you know, and I put in my resignation like about like I think a month or 2 or 3 months early. Um, and I know a lot of the newbies said that oh, whoa there, Matthew, you put in your resignation so early that totally gives the manager a reason, like to like that's the reason why, because you put it in too early. Well, sad to say to that newbie, which will not be named. Unfortunately, just because you put in your resignation early, and to anyone watching, just because you give your resignation to a manager early, um, it should not make a difference. Unfortunately, to a lot of managers nowadays, they do take advantage of that, especially if they don't like you, if they dislike you, which apparently was really hated because I was very outspoken within the the employee area of that. So yeah, so there was that. So I put it in a couple months early, and guess what happened? A couple like beforehand on I believe it was December 4. No, 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 no. It was about like a week or so afterward. I was meeting with my friend who still works there, and we were talking. He was like, "Yeah, our assistant manager got fired." And so just a little bit background on this assistant manager. This assistant manager was the heart and soul of the employee core, quote unquote. Um, he was the one that everyone liked. He was the popular one. He was the one who really listened to us. He was the one who actually came into the rooms, did not quiz us on, if we were having issues, but like was like, okay, hey, this is how you do this. Just make sure, you try to remember to do this next time. Because one of the most frustrating things that this guy does is he'll come in and either he'll just sign language you, and mind you, it's in a really sassy manner, a manner in which, like, if I was just an onlooker and I was watching the sign language, especially if it was really busy, thankfully they have walkies now, so there's not as much sign language. But yeah, the way this guy sign language is really just inappropriate for the workplace in terms of, like, should you be sign languaging in a sassy manner trying to get you guys to work harder, but you're not going to come in and help said employee? Yeah, and he did that for everyone who was having an issue, whether they were wearing something that he didn't like, or he thought was inappropriate, or you were having an issue, it was taking too long. Which, by the way, management decided it was going to be a good idea to make it so that bookings, like if you didn't get the experience running, let's say within about 12 minutes, if there was any bugs, because there still are a plethora of bugs, um, you would reschedule. But here's the issue with the workflow of that is that when you were dealing with the issue, you had to contact IT. And this is where the whole interference between the IT tech staff, in Hong Kong, which, God so help me, uh, corporate decided it would be great for management, to make it so that they only have their tech support in Hong Kong. There is no, as of my knowledge yet, and I've asked my sources and they've said the same thing. No US branch tech, and it's been 3 years. Why they didn't think it would be a good idea to put tech staff in America, or in general in the nations that they're going to be putting in, like the countries, kind of baffles me, because that just hangs, like, doesn't matter how many people you have. There's a language gap, like in terms of that. There's like a serious time lag, which is the issue we were doing, because it took about 6 to 8 or even more minutes, because they were still working with other places, with other stores, and so we would have to wait. Like, especially if there was an issue that was just something we couldn't do fast on our own per se. Because the thing is, we were told, look, hardware, software, and when you're checking hardware, just make sure everything's plugged in, make sure everything's done right, um, and we did that, but apparently it still wasn't fast enough for this guy. So, um, it's frustrating when a manager comes in, especially looking from like a part-time person, which this is the issue. This is the big issue with this guy, is he had no distinction for how much work you should be giving a part-time person, and more specifically how much experience, like how much like on the spot experience um a part-time person should have. Because, like I said in my last one, he gave people quizzes, and on the biggest issue, that like the biggest, I guess you could say, argument, even though it wasn't really an argument, it was just a one-sided talk down, pretty much, with the manager, with this guy to myself talking down to me, was we were doing a troubleshooting. We literally were given a written troubleshooting test, which, mind you, was written like in school, like you're in high school again, which was graded. and was marked down because something, even though something was right, it wasn't the way he wanted it to be. And there is no one way to troubleshoot. There are multiple ways to troubleshoot. And the fact that a manager is trying to push through one way instead of multiple ways and allowing, multiple ways, because that's the difference between the manager and the assistant manager. The manager cowers to corporate, and the assistant manager who was fired did not cower to corporate. And because of that, assistant manager was fired. Now, corporate gave a lot of very, very typical um, corporate answers, saying like, "Oh, well, he did some shady stuff. Was doing some shady stuff." And like I said in the other video, you know, I wish I could like come in and like list all the shady stuff that this main manager did, because on multiple occasions he physically touched an employee. Not saying he hit him, but he physically touched employees trying to get them to move in the direction. And that would happen to one of my friends who's still working there, which is very inappropriate. An employer should never touch an employee, ever, for any cause or route. Should never touch an employee. It's inappropriate. You shouldn't do it, and it's very, very, very dangerous to do. Because if my friend technically wanted to do something, he could. Because you don't do that. It's not professional etiquette, and it's not appropriate for the workplace. Period. No buts, ifs about it. Doesn't matter if like you're in a rush, you're in a you really got to get going. Never touch an employee. Never, never. Which was weird, I'm telling you. Touching employees, just don't do it. Don't do it. So next thing, management. We talked to management multiple times, specifically the manager, because the assistant manager was already trying to help us out with this. Assistant manager and us, we were constantly telling the manager, hey, we need to sit. It gets tiring. We're like standing for like literally 99% of our shifts. And technically sitting was against the rules, which is mind-boggling because it adds extra strain to you. Your legs are going to be killing you while you're constantly looking at data, making sure it's not glitching out, which is already stressful enough. And you're told to stand during your entire shift. And just recently, I actually was talking to one of my friends, and they just got chairs after 5 months, 5 plus months actually, like probably like 6 months, I believe. Yeah, 6 months. 6 months just for chairs to be approved by corporate. That's a little bit iffy. I'm just saying, a little bit iffy. Um, yeah, a little bit iffy. Next up is my thing. So we're gonna go ahead and start talking about, and this is gonna be mixed. I'm gonna be talking about what happened to me in more detail right now, and then we're gonna go back to some of the other stuff that was discussed. And before I do that, actually, I just want to discuss management's issue with taking criticism and actually taking it positively, because there was all positive criticism, to be honest. So me and the assistant manager, we both were gotten rid of. To be honest, I was first to resign, and he was fired outright. And mind you, okay, I gotta bring this up. I gotta bring this up. Our manager, our assistant manager, had a kid. I believe he had a kid, and then he had a daughter, and then he had a kid on the way. And this was a week before Christmas. They fired him a week before Christmas. Let that sink in. They fired a married man who had to support his family through Christmas, right before Christmas Day, because at the root of the issue, it doesn't matter what corporate says with their filler reasoning, he still had to survive literally in the cold because they were like, oh well, you know what? We're gonna fire you the week before Christmas. Nah, they couldn't wait to get rid of him. They couldn't wait, and it's kept me up multiple nights thinking about how our company can be so heartless, and it just tends to show you how ruthless, absolutely ruthless, some Chinese companies can be when they don't like criticism. And my issue. So go about my issue, and we'll get back to him in a second because I really want to, just do a little bit of a shout out to the guy. Um, so like yeah, so like I said, with my issue, my literally for me, because I wasn't outspoken to the point that our assistant manager was, I never spoke out publicly against the company up until now, or against this guy. But this guy has the balls to tell me before, like, like the week before my last shift, to say, you need to get these rooms calibrated. And mind you, there can be a plethora of glitches that can take time to fix. And you know what this guy says? And this is after him literally standing in my face, pretty much, and grading my paper and like saying, is there any way you can go faster? And can you hit that 10-minute mark for each room? Each room should not take more than 10 minutes. And I asked him very politely, as calm as possible. I didn't scream at him, sir. Is that like is that really realistic with 10 minutes each room, regardless if there's a glitch or not, or whether I need help? And he literally said, yes, yes, that's totally reasonable. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with that. I have to disagree with that because guess what? You you should not rush making sure that something is correctly calibrated because you're short of time. Especially if, and this is very key, it's very key, especially when you're demanding that of the morning shift, when you don't get in before your team, and your team is there 100% of the time ahead of you, variable amounts of time, and I was able to literally show up at work before he was even there every single time I had to work morning shift, like opening shift, which doesn't make any sense because if this guy is a manager, you'd think, like I said in the last one, like you represent the pinnacle of what your store should be, and this guy really doesn't represent anything good about the store. It's the employees that do, and that's the sad thing. Is this guy would show up late, like he would show up a little bit afterward. Like if it showed up at 10:30, he would show up at 10:50. If it was like 10 o'clock, he'd be there at 10:30, or like later, or like right before 11. And we would have bookings at 11. And he would sometimes calibrate some of the rooms, but most of the time he didn't. That's the fact of the matter. Most of the time he didn't. Let that sink in. And then when staff comes in, he pushes them onto it, and then it's just bonkers the fact that you as a manager, one can show up early before your staff, and then when they get there, you're overly critical on them, especially part-time people who either are not there very often. Sometimes they don't even hear about stuff until days afterward, after the issue was which happened to me near the end because I was only there 1 day a week when this guy was slowly phasing me out. And yeah, which brings me to my next point. So, like I said earlier, slowly phased me out up until literally I didn't he wasn't giving me any shifts. And the thing that really, 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 really pisses me off, and I'm gonna try to stay as calm as can be, but this guy asked me in good faith. He was like, "Hey, Matthew, honest question. I want you to answer honestly. Nothing. It's all good, on good faith, type of thing. What do you think about the work here right now?" And I said, honestly, it's miserable. It's miserable. Every time I come to work, it's miserable because either something is always glitching out, something is always breaking. There's no, there's no, uh, there's no basically breathing room whenever it's busy. And just the background for that reason is when I was on shift and he was the manager in charge or the leader in charge, he would shove me in a room and never take me out. I, like I said earlier in the last video, I had to ask. I always had to ask to be taken out. Now, ironically, after I leave, he's like, okay, yeah, let's make sure you guys get switched out, which shouldn't even have happened after I left. It should have always been happening. But no, the assistant manager was the one who was on top of that. And you know what the sad thing is? As stated before, this manager was the one who said, hey, I got you guys. I'm the one who's going to be making sure that you guys are going to be pulled out so you guys don't get stressed up. Promises not kept. Which brings me to another issue with this manager, and this might sting a little bit to to some people who think it's great to screw other people, you know. Uh, but this is something he did pretty close to the end before I left with an assistant manager in training. I'm not gonna say his name out of respect, but basically what happened is this manager thought it was going to be a good idea to break the room. And breaking the room basically means you're going to go ahead and disable some stuff, unplug some stuff, maybe unsync something, and then you're going to send someone in there to fix it. So that's exactly what he did with this manager, with this assistant manager in training. And guess when he did it? He didn't do it when we weren't open. Oh, he did it when we were open. Worse yet, it was this guy's last day, and he gave him a broken room. He actually specifically told IT support in Hong Kong on Slack, which is the program, like the app we use to communicate with them, to not respond. Specifically told him to not respond to this assistant manager. Told him to not help him whatsoever. This happened to the guy on his last day and with paying customers. Paying customers. So understandably, this guy was pissed. And yeah, the manager really didn't seem to care. Really didn't seem to care. I never heard of him apologizing to the guy. Never. I mean, if he did, good. You're making one out of a million steps to doing yourself. Now, apparently after all this drama, this manager has the balls to say, I learned something, guys. I learned I need to communicate. You know the real comedy about that? Not one time when I was pretty much exiled before I got sent fully into the desert, which where I am right now, not one time did he communicate with me. Think about that. This guy is saying, "Oh, I learned about communication." He didn't communicate with me whatsoever. Did not communicate whatsoever. He didn't, and at the root of it, and I was talking to one of my friends. They were like, "Yeah, yeah." He does not like. He didn't. In the end of, At the end of the day, he did not want to deal with the issue that was me. He did not want to deal with it. Was below him, and it just really does shine a light on the fact that this manager really didn't really care. And the fact of the matter is, when you work for this company, you're a pawn. You can get thrown out. You can be promoted maybe if you say yes enough, and you're definitely going to be stressed out working here. Unless they make drastic changes, which, as far as I've seen, it's not even drastic. They're just changing little tiny things to make things a little bit, a little bit better. Just a tiny bit better. And then they're going to call that improvement. So I don't know what to say. it's just sad to see a company that doesn't even have a break room to eat in, a refrigerator to keep your food in. So literally people who work at the store I'm working at, it's sad because management didn't stand up for them. Like for when the building was being made, you would have thought, "Hey, the store manager is going to look out for me for, so I can save some money." But nah, they were like cuz in training we were like, "Oh yeah, you guys are going to have a break room." I was like, "Yeah." But no, you have to eat out. If you want to eat, you have to eat out every single time. Unless you got you know, like chips. But nope, can't bring any perishables because guess what? You don't have a break room. So you have to waste money every day at work that you want to eat, which forces you to work harder to fill in that gap, even if you don't even buy that much because you don't even have a break room. It's just baffling to me. It's baffling to me. But yeah, avoiding the issues is what this manager really excelled at is avoiding the issues, not really thinking about the consequences of his actions. Um, and the sassiness of this manager, this guy is baffling because whenever you would bring up an issue, and we're gonna go ahead and talk about another issue coming up here. Whenever you would bring up an issue to him, he'd be like, "Okay, I'll pass it on. Yeah, pass it on. Yeah, pass it on." Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, we all know see how that turned out. Months at a time. Don't even know what to say about that. That is just baffling. Baffling. But next thing, um, so this company has also started VR esports for one of their games, and it's called Unbound Fighting League. It's decent to say the least. Um, First off, this manager didn't even want to listen to me and my friend, who both do semi-pro esports. And one of the most chilling things he said was, quote, "It doesn't matter if we make it unfair. It doesn't matter if we make it unfair because we're the ones making the rules." And I was like, "What are you on? Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. Like, you can't say that in terms of when you're working on an esports game. You just can't. It's just it's blatant incompetence, to be honest. You literally saying, "Oh yeah, well it's okay if we make something not fair, because yeah, we're in charge." And that's the attitude he had about pretty much everything. Whether it be, something like flow, getting rid of two roles, and just slapping those roles into other people. Which, by the way, my one of my coworkers wanted to make sure I told you guys, like, yeah, when you work at this company, you basically carry three or four hats. Host, like you can be doing host, but you also have to do cleaning. Um, you'll have to do floor. Make sure people get set up. You'll have to do, going into rooms, making sure people check up. And you'll have to be doing that constantly for however long your shift is. So it's just constant stress, just going in and in and in and in and going on and on. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And this manager literally is blind to the fact that you can't ask people to do things that, one, is above their pay grade, and number two, most importantly, is not even in like the work description. Like calling us in during construction was a big red flag. And it was my fault. I should have caught that sooner, and I should have called them out on it. That was my fault. I'll take it. I'll take responsibility for that. I should have called them out on that. Hey, like we shouldn't even be here. I'm not gonna be here. But no, that was the only way we could see the start and make money and get hours. So we were pretty much, forced to do that, or else we wouldn't have anything to do. Um, Training, the way this guy did training. Um, one of the new people that was hired, um, she literally was thrown into the room. I think like 3 days into working, 3 days into being trained, she was thrown into running a room, like a whole session, and she, as expected, needed help from one of us, one of the more experienced people. Which, you have to think about that. Like, why would you send someone in solo into a room to run it when they've only been working for you about like a week or like half a week? Very questionable. Very questionable indeed. Very, very not professional. But yeah. And then for in terms of managerial for cleaning supplies, oh boy. Okay, so we switched from kind of like the more chemically cleaning, which wasn't that bad to be honest, to baby wipes to clean all the gear down, like the VR headset, the the lenses, not the lenses, but we were using wipes. We were actually using pretty decent wipes, though. I will say I don't get why they couldn't have gotten like disposable or something like microfiber cloths or something like that. Or we used a microfiber cloth way better on the lens. Does a lot less damage to it than a sanitization wipe for a lens. It's all right, but microfiber cloths are the way to go for that. So um, yeah. By the way, background on this guy. He was a genist apparently before he was called by corporate, before he was hired by corporate to actually run this place. So red flag. Why would a gene manager be given the reins to a VR establishment who did not want to make our lives easier by simplifying some stuff? And our assistant manager, again, was very key in bringing up issues that were making things harder for us and things that would make it simpler. And, I talked to our assistant manager quite a bit because he was a really easygoing person, family guy, really easy to talk to. And the manager literally just brushed him aside. Didn't really sink in what he was saying. And so that was just really irking that, this manager just, I don't know, he really hated taking advice, taking criticism, um, Standing up to corporate for this guy was very hard. And I don't believe he ever stood up to corporate one time. I think he just was like, "Oh, well, no. No, I don't think I will." That's literally the attitude we got from him. That's how it felt to be working for him. Because evidently we as employees were less important to stand up for than corporate. He literally stood up for corporate, well, I'd say about 99% more than he did us. Because chairs, 5 months for chairs. 5 months. I cannot believe it took 5 months to get chairs. That's corporate. That's Chinese carpet for you, though. Apparently, sitting is lazy over there, um, but not here in America, thank God. Amen. I mean, I'm just saying, 5 months for chairs. Think about 5 months for chairs. Oh man, just think of how long it's going to take for them to get the correct pops, the pops that are shown in advertisements. If I knew any better, that's false advertising. But what do I know? I've only been around for a while. Um, but so we're gonna try to shrink this up here, guys, because we are currently at 34 minutes. So we're gonna try to get this going here. But and I may make a third because I may forget some stuff here that I may need to bring up, and if that's the case, it'll be a much shorter video than this one. But um, just want to give, like I said earlier, I want to give a shout out to our assistant manager wherever you are, man. I miss you. It was really really messed up what this company did to you, how they treated both you and me, but especially you. A week before Christmas, baffling. Baffling that the company would even have the madness to pull that off just baffles me. No concern or respect for a husband and a father having to provide for your family throughout Christmas, having to come, into the family table and saying, guys, I was fired, um, for basically speaking out. And let's be honest here, we all know as employees that work there that at the end of the day, whatever corporate says, most of the reason was because he called out corporate too much in the open. And may God be with you, my brother, because what they did to you was wrong on professional levels, on ethical levels, on morality levels. Um, and the fact that this company seems to dislike anyone who speaks up, and the fact that a manager would have the actually just really low ethical mindset to use a conversation spoken in good faith against me. And just to bring it up briefly again, was I actually had to ask one of my coworkers, "Hey, has the manager been speaking behind my back negatively?" And they said yes, and they told me, yeah, he basically said, "Oh, well, he put in his resignation. He told me his work in here was miserable, and I saw it in his face at the start, um when he came in, and why doesn't he just quit?" Well, manager, I'll put this to you. I'm sorry to say that I don't quit. I'm sorry to say that I disagree with your lackluster management skills. I'm sorry for your abuse of power. I'm sorry that you don't understand how to manage a technological group. You haven't even cleaned out the computers, by the way. As far as I know, you haven't even cleaned out the computers. These computers are going to die on you, man. They're either going to die or they're going to limp along for however long until they die. But they're going to die very soon. But yeah, just I think this manager has the balls to say, "Guys, I learned communication." That is really sad, because if that's all you learned as a manager from all this drama, yeah, you failed at communication, because you can say to your staff that you didn't get rid of or didn't help get rid of, that, "Oh, I'm trying to improve, I'm trying to communicate better." Well, guess what? You need to mend the mistakes you made in the past before you can move forward. It doesn't work with, "Oh, well, I'm going to avoid the mistakes of the past and then move forward." That's not how it works, buddy. No, you need to mend the mistakes you made in the past, and then you can move forward. And to be blunt, guys, I have not received any apologies from this guy from the way he treated me. I have not received anything of the sort. Not one message. Not one message letting me know, like, "Hey, there's some issues going on. We should talk." Nope, nothing, nothing. And this guy was a man. This guy calls himself a manager. It's shocking, guys, that we live in a time in America where employees are as disposable as pawns, and that you know people I've talked to, like the person I talked to, was afraid to ask for 10-minute break reparations because they were afraid of being treated the same way I was. That should never happen in America, but sadly it does. And one thing we should take from this is corporations, and specifically management in this case, should not scare you to the fact that you're unwilling to go forward and stand up for the rights that you have under the law, and the stuff that you are guaranteed if you were if it was taken away from you in any sort of form, specifically in this case 10-minute breaks. uh, and one thing I want to make sure people get is, look, I'm not telling you not to apply for this job, I'm not telling you not to work here, but I'm saying I really can't recommend this place. Like I said, I give it a 0.2. It's that bad. If I could give it less than 1 star, if I could give it 0 stars, I would. because the treatment me and the people got there and are still getting there, as of my knowledge, is not up to the standards. And the fact that they literally really didn't bat eye. This is a manager actually told me when I put in my resignation that the manager just shrugged, didn't even say a word, couldn't say anything. Well, there's something to be said here, um, and it's just that the quality of managers that this company hires needs to improve. This guy, in my personal opinion, should have been fired. They should have called back the assistant manager, and they should have they should have really asked for forgiveness from both me and him. But that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. Uh, my professional opinion given. Um, but yeah, that's about it, guys. If you guys want me to cover anything else, I know this one was actually longer than the last one, but it's just really hard to talk sometimes about the treatment that you get sometimes from managers because some managers really don't treat you as people. And this guy was well known, by the way, at his last job apparently as being a big numbers guy. And the issue about being a numbers guy, as a main manager, is number guys, people that focus on numbers, variables, statistical analysis, don't view employees as highly as people as people who are not numbers based purely, which this guy clearly is. Um, and that was the issue. Is assistant manager really viewed us as people, as valued members of work of the company, and treated us as such. This guy treated treated me especially, and still other people, I think, in my professional opinion, as numbers that can be moved around, told what to do, and just laid out in the dust, in the desert, if so be, if you are not a yes person. Because that's what it is um, if you're not a yes person of this company, very likely you're going to be either phased out quietly like me if you don't speak of publicly, or you're going to be just absolutely destroyed, like fired, like my assistant manager. But shout out to you, brother, assistant manager. I really miss you, man. Maybe we can, get some coffee, catch up, or whatever like that. Yeah, man, but I miss you. And stuff needs to change at that store and in SandBox in general because worldwide 3.3 rating is going to be going down further if you keep this up. If you keep hiring management that doesn't care about their staff as human beings and treats them as numbers, it's going to keep going. And more people are going to be complaining. More and more people are going to be quitting. More and more people are going to be giving you issues, and which in this case is complaining about the various issues. And if this manager pulls something he did with the assistant manager, like I talked about earlier, breaking a room during live service is by far the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Should never happen, especially on his last day. Like, have a heart, man. It's not good professionally or even personally. What a mess. Like, if Gordon Ramsay was into doing, entrepreneurship instead of cooking, I guarantee you he would be swearing this manager out. Because this manager, ooh, makes me shiver at the thought of having to talk to him again. Because treatment is 0, money interest is 10, and yeah. But look, this is just the views. This is just what I experienced personally. This is what I saw other people experience. But if you want to work here, so be it. I know they're currently hiring, but still, I don't recommend it. 1350 to 1450 for the amount of work here, I have to say, is the biggest ripoff and biggest fraud I've ever heard in my life and seen with my eyes. Um, Definitely would not recommend working here by far. Go work somewhere else where you can make either the same money or more for less work. Because at the end of the day, unless you want to be broken in like a workhorse and work till you drop, don't recommend this place whatsoever. I mean, 5 months for chairs to be approved. is highly just questionable. Like if chairs take that long to be approved, what else in the future if there's an issue is going to take to get approved, you know? But with that said, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a great day and well, just uh just ask me questions in the comments if you have any more for me and I'll answer them best I can. With that said, guys, peace out and have a blessed day. A better day than me and a better day than I don't know what, but you guys have a good day. Peace out, guys, and good luck.